Webcast. Yeah. We're so excited to have you. I know we've got a few people on here right now and enjoying having you here and share. So why we wanted to start doing this was, as much as I love to share on Facebook Live on Monday mornings, we know there's so much more learning for you to be able to do. So by inviting industry experts and experts in their field on with specific topics that you guys like to talk about, we're so excited to be able to share and help you continue learning. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce today's guest. For those of you who don't know her, her name is Kristin Wilson, the owner of Our DJ Rocks and Photo Booth Rocks. So excited to have her. Kristin has built 2 monster empires here in Central Florida. Her staff has grown throughout the years, but she just started as a one-woman enterprise, growing her business step by step, one thing along the way. So when I first met Kristin, she was working for someone else as a DJ, and you know, it's rare to find female DJs in the wedding and event industry. So the DJ company she was working for, every time I called, I would request the chick DJ, right? I mean, there weren't many females out there, so I always asked for the chick. I didn't know her name, but I never really said anything. I didn't really learn her name either. I always just asked for the chick. So from where we started way back then until now, she truly has grown an empire. She runs 2 separate businesses and has grown large teams of people. And I think that that's something really important for us to learn, the path of starting from here and going all the way to there and how you are able to grow your business that way. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna share all about that, and we've been friends for years and years, and so I'm really excited to be able to introduce Kristin. Welcome,
Yay!
Chris. Yeah, so before we share your story, we're going to take a quick moment and talk about, we're here at Ace Cafe. So thankful to Ace for having us. If you haven't been here before, it's an amazing property and awesome event space. So Ace Cafe is in downtown Orlando on the corner of West Livingston Street and Garland Avenue. It's a moto-centric full-service restaurant and bar and an impressive special event and live music venue. With over 33,000 square feet, parking on site, there's always something happening at the Ace. I think tonight there's some kind of car show and car event, bike nights on Thursdays, but they guarantee you'll have a unique experience here each and every time you visit. From classic and exotic car shows to their famous Thursday night bike night, which I haven't been to, but I've heard great things. There's something for everyone. Check out the Moto-inspired art gallery. We've got motorcycles like this one here. And they have a retail shop on site. Make sure you visit acecafeusa.com for more information about this space. And be sure to check out their monthly event calendar and come out. We had a little happy hour downstairs, had some snacks. It was awesome. The food was delicious.
Delish.
Okay. So why did I pick Kristin to be our first guest here on the podcast? So one of the questions people constantly ask me over and over again is how to grow their business and what do they have to do to grow and the steps they need to take to make their way there. And I don't really know many people who've really taken the entire path from single person enterprise to slowly adding teams, growing, adding a second business within there. And so it was important for me to find someone who really was able to share that information and share that with our listeners. So thanks, Kristin, for being here.
You're welcome.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so first of all, I don't even know where to start. I feel like I want to dig through the old hard drive when I had to dig through and prepare for this. And I guess first start by really telling everybody, like, I really started in the basement. My now husband and I, when we got together, I was one-man show. I was working full-time. As I was DJing, I literally kept DJ equipment underneath my kids' bunk beds.
Nice. That's awesome.
And so it really started from me working in marketing at the Nickelodeon Hotel. I got my degree in ad PR.
Yeah.
Marketing's always been my passion, and obviously DJing. I DJ'd my way through college. It helped me pay all my non-loans that I didn't have to get.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. Okay, so when we first met and I had asked you, how did everything start? You kind of told me the story a little bit of how you even became a DJ. So say a little bit more of that. So bad. But tell a little bit more about that story.
Okay, so everyone's going to love this because I accidentally fell into this. The guy I was dating actually lived in New York, and he came down to Florida and was looking for a job to work for a DJ company.
Okay.
And he Google searched wedding DJ in Orlando and reached out to the guy, started training with him, and I would go with him because when he was done with his training, we would just like go out to dinner or whatever.
Right.
So I would be in the corner doing homework as he was training, and I would just hear little things, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, I could do that. I could do that.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the training session, I went up to the guy that he worked for and was
Right.
like, can chicks do this? Because, like, to me, I didn't know chicks were a thing in the
Right.
DJ world.
Yeah.
I also didn't know that being a wedding DJ was even a thing.
Yeah.
You know, to me, weddings were get married at the church, receiving line, dunzo.
Yeah, so total fluke.
Yes.
Went through the training.
Yes. So he was like, if you've got a great personality, I could train you to DJ. And I'm like, boom, sign me up.
Awesome.
First wedding I did, I was a roadie for my boyfriend. And this was, I don't know, 2005, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So if anybody in the wedding industry knows a little bit about weddings, 2005, let me paint a picture.
Yeah.
The ballroom was huge.
Everything was the ballroom.
There was 300 people.
Mm-hmm.
Centerpieces were 5 feet tall, uplights around the entire room. He goes, lines up the bridal party, and I'm sitting there next to him, and he gets on a microphone, and this voice out of nowhere starts introducing the bride and groom for the very first time as husband and wife. Doors open, 300 people rise to their feet,
Wow.
chill bumps all over my whole body. And after he got done with that, I'm like, you legit get paid to do this.
That's awesome.
I mean, my heart's pounding thinking about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And so at the time, though, you were working somewhere else.
Yes. So at that time, actually, that specific time, I was still in college.
Okay.
I was doing an internship, and I was bartending on the side.
And what'd you go to school for?
So went to school for ad PR with a double minor in education and marketing.
Woo.
Yeah.
Okay, so we graduated school.
Yep. So we graduated school. I got a professional career at the Nickelodeon Hotel
Awesome.
in sales and marketing.
Such a cool property.
It was awesome to work for that brand because it was just so exciting.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I probably picked up on a lot of the branding that I do now.
Yeah.
Because obviously everyone knows the Nickelodeon brand. It's so strong.
Yeah.
And at the time, I thought to myself, well, if this doesn't work out, I'm probably going to be a brand manager for some sort of major brand.
All right. So do you think it's really important for people in the wedding industry to work for someone else and to learn at least a little bit before they just jump and start their own business? What do you think is the stronger path? I mean, I know both ways work, but what would be the path that you would recommend to people?
You know, I feel like that's a really hard question to answer because I feel like when I worked in the wedding industry, it was just more practice for me to do the DJing itself.
Okay.
I feel like in my professional world, that's where I learned the business side because I didn't go to school for business. I didn't learn how to run a business.
Right.
I truly don't even know what I'm doing. I make it up as I go.
Please. Please.
But I read a lot of books and,
Yeah.
you know, I do my education and things like
Constant
that. But
learning,
I
right.
didn't learn that
Yeah.
from where I worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's a hard question to answer.
So let's talk about what it looked like when you were first doing your business. I hope we have the picture of what Kristin used to look like when she would go out and DJ events. It was fantastic, and it was what was popular at the time, but she would wear...
Oh my God, you don't have my Music Note vest picture.
I have the vest. So she would wear this awesome, like, glittery Music Note vest. She had braces. It was fantastic.
I had Music Note cuffs.
Yes, and cuffs back in the tuxedo days, right? And so the brand has evolved totally, but how, at what point did you decide it was a good idea to go out on your own and actually start a business?
Well, I didn't have a choice
Okay.
because it was 2009 and the economy was tanking. And in the hotel industry, people were pretty much getting pink slips after every pay period.
Wow.
And so...
Super nerve-wracking.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
And one day I got called into the office and my GM said, what projects are you working on? I had this whole spreadsheet. I had color coded. I mean, everything I was
Right.
doing. And he literally took that and threw it in the trash. And he's like, all right, so I'm going to need you to sell room nights. A what? What do you want me to sell?
Okay.
I didn't know how to sell. I mean,
Understandable.
So from there, it pretty much, I had to make it up.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody to teach me how to do it. There was a colleague who was a sales associate.
Right.
And she worked in Vegas at the Monte Carlo, and she'd worked at Universal. So she's like, well, here's what you need to do. So make a long story short, hindsight's 2020. And essentially
Always.
what I did was I created markets, and I went after niche markets for the hotel, which was basically marketing. It
Yeah.
wasn't really selling, but I was marketing to niche markets to sell the hotel. And I think that's where I probably picked up on some of the skills I have, because
Yeah.
they kind of let me have the freedom to kind of play.
That's amazing. I think that sometimes when people meet you or meet me, they assume that like we've kind of always been wedding industry educated, and they don't realize how much of an education that we've gotten from previous jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go back to like me being a nanny, me working at the dry cleaner, the bakery after school, train, downtown Orlando. Woo, woo, train. It's coming, so what can you do? But I think it was such like an important time to be able to learn a lot from all of those positions before kind of diving into weddings.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were selling room nights and decided, I just want to be a DJ full time. Tell me what that looked like.
Well, it wasn't even that. Like,
In my head, that's how it works, right?
so, I mean, let's just break it down. I owned a house. I
Right.
owned a car. I had all these bills to pay. I was driving from Volusia County all the way to freaking Kissimmee.
Right.
Could barely pay my gas bill. I had no choice but to DJ and have a salary in order to pay the bills.
Okay.
And so there was a breaking point for me when I was just like, you know what? Like, I don't know if DJing is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, but I really, really love doing it.
Okay.
And I mean, let me at least try to get enough weddings on the books to see if there's something. And so
Right.
then I took the next like 8 to 9 months. I built a website. I did a bunch of research on like the same stuff I did at the hotel. What networking events do I go to? What seminars do I go
Right,
to? What
right, right.
conferences do I go to?
Yeah.
How do I break into this
Made a
industry?
plan.
I made a plan. I
Right.
created a website. I started networking, and that took me about 12 months before I even quit my job.
Wow.
And then once I got to the point where I kind of understood at least how the industry worked,
Yeah.
and I also had a conversation with the person I DJ'd for, and I was like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Are you okay with it?
Right.
And then I got the go ahead, and he was the first person I showed my logo to. And
That's amazing.
I mean, I think ethics play a huge part in this
100%.
at the end of the day. So-
Yeah, especially with growing teams of people, finding people who have that kind of ethical to have
Well,
that conversation.
And I also believe that you cannot burn bridges because you never know when you're going to cross paths again.
Oh, Lordy, no.
So once I got to the point where I probably had like 20, 30 weddings in the books, I went home to my apartment and told my fiance at the time, hey, I'm going to quit my job where I have insurance, disability, 401k, and I'm going to do this DJ thing.
Jump.
He didn't even hesitate. He's like, let's go.
Okay, so you had a decent amount of business on the books. You share an office space, right? It was something you decided to do, was to get shared office space. It's the first day of,
Yep. So I put my notice into the hotel.
Okay.
I think it was like 2 months, 3 months notice, something
Yeah.
like that. They had a party for me. They made a cake with like my DJ logo on it, like
Right.
super supportive, got slimed
gotcha.
because that's
So
like the
cool.
highest honor.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think my last day there was maybe February 10th, February
Okay.
14th, somewhere around Valentine's Day. And then I was on my own like February 17th.
Right.
And I knew that I didn't want to be a vendor that met my clients at various places.
Right.
Number one, I needed to conserve my time because
Yes,
an
for
hour
sure.
driving there, an hour back, they're 15 minutes late, I'm 3.5 hours in.
And now the Panera and Starbucks is fine. It works, but it wasn't what you wanted to do for your company.
And I knew that right off the bat.
Okay.
So there was some photographers that I had worked with, and I'm like, she said, I have a space. And I'm like, yes.
I could share your space.
It was in Oviedo. It was a cute little yellow train car.
So cute.
And
If only it was pink.
so I walked in that day. I set up my laptop and I'm like, well, what do I do on my first day of work? So I opened the laptop and I just started blogging because I didn't know what else to do.
Right. Okay, so day one, we're just blogging.
That's all we're doing.
Right? So we've booked weddings and we're doing things. And so within that first, I think it was within the first year, we had a pretty big setback.
Well, there's been,
After an event.
I can't tell you how many
With a
setbacks there's
trailer?
been. Yes.
Okay.
So
So share a little bit because it isn't always sunshine and roses.
no, we could talk about all the stormy
Yeah.
clouds along the way.
Let's share that
We'll
good
start
one.
with the first one.
Yeah.
So I had my equipment. I was DJing off of CDs at the time.
CDs. Did you hear that?
CDs.
It's been a while. CDs.
And let's see, February. So February started July.
Okay.
It was a Sunday. We had gotten home. It was a late night the night before from a wedding.
Right.
So we didn't unload the trailer and put everything back in the apartment. Sunday morning, we went grocery shopping. We came back and I saw the door on our trailer was open.
Yeah.
And I literally thought to myself, oh my God, no. And then as soon as I got out of the car and opened the door and I saw an empty trailer, I literally felt like someone had chopped my legs off at my knees.
I couldn't even imagine.
Everything that I had owned was stolen. My speakers, my CDs. Like I can go to any store and get another set of speakers tomorrow.
But your whole library.
My music library.
Right.
Like my curated crates of playlists and music. Like what?
And for like all the people watching, imagine that, right? You're a florist or you're a photographer and imagine your camera's gone, your stuff is gone, your everything you need to be successful in your job. It's like having a venue and it burned down. Like, what are you supposed to do next?
I had no insurance, by the way. You want to talk about that for
no
a minute?
insurance.
So when you first start your business, I mean, how many of us right now don't have insurance? You know, I mean, let's really rewind. Because nowadays, I'm like taxed every quarter and annual taxes and TPP taxes and payroll taxes and this tax and that tax.
Right.
But like back then, it wasn't any of that.
Right, it was just you.
There was no CYA of anything because you can't fathom something like that would even happen.
Right. So how did you recover from that setback?
I mean, the first thing I did was I went to the computer and I made a Facebook post.
I know, which I think we've shared. Sounds like we shared the little Facebook post.
I mean, I looked at my upcoming events and I said, all right, well, my next wedding is in 2 weeks. What's the first thing I need to do? And I had to research like crazy because I'm not going to go backwards in time. The industry in the DJ world was already changing to digital.
Right, so
you know what I
started
mean?
making that shift.
Yes. Luckily, I had some colleagues that I never burned bridges with who found out my situation, reached out to me, and was like, what do you need? And luckily, they were able to share some things in the interim and kind of help get me back on my feet, almost like support me a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it was many, many, many nights, I can't tell you, like I would be at my mixer with my laptop, can't even figure out how to get the sound to come out, crying my eyes out at the kitchen table while Mark is like, I don't know anything about this. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
Why don't you take a break?
Yeah.
And so, I mean.
Well, and I think it just shows the importance so much of making sure that we are, you know, we build a network of people. There's so many wonderful people in Central Florida who are happy to share and help and, you know, work together as a team. I know a lot of the florists in town have this like Facebook group, and if somebody needs an arch and they don't have an arch and they know somebody else has it, they rent things from each other, they borrow things from each other, they share teams sometimes when they need to. But if you are not a part of the community, then you don't get to take advantage of it when the shitteth hitteth the fan, right?
Yeah.
Like, so when something happens, and that was a big part of you growing the business, was networking, keeping good contact with all these companies, building relationships with other DJs.
Yeah.
And that made the recovery from that a lot easier.
And I feel like too, like as we go through this conversation, we'll probably come back and circle every single time because it's those contacts and the relationships that I have that have helped me recover.
Yeah, for sure.
Really through everything, I feel like.
Okay, so we're DJing events.
Yep, we're DJing.
We're DJing. We're DJing events. And so we decide that, because I feel like the industry started to change a little bit, and we've decided to add photo booths. So talk to me why you decided to start investing in photo booths as part of your business.
Well, it wasn't even my decision.
Okay.
At all.
I don't think I knew that. Continue.
If I remember correctly, it was probably a good maybe 2 to 3 week time frame.
Okay.
When I would have brides call me and perfect, I want to book you for DJ service. Do you have a photo booth? Because I just want to book that through you too. I don't want to add one more vendor. And we all go through that phase when we're like, oh God, like, do we add one more service? Is it going to step on toes? Like,
Yes.
I want to make sure I'm good at what I do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we've all gone through that.
Yeah, we have these conversations all the time.
Yes.
Like the florist who does flowers and the photographer who does video also. Like
Or the photographer who does photo booths.
or the photographer who does, the DJ who does video. I mean,
Yes.
it's where's the line of what that is. But I think the lesson learned really is you listen to the customer.
Well, I did.
And the customer was expecting the DJ to have the photo booth.
Correct.
Okay.
So you can probably have a whole nother webcast
I
on
know.
that conversation
For real.
itself. But when it comes to the client, I was giving my client what they wanted.
Okay.
And so again, I went back to the drawing board. I did Google research. I looked for conventions that manufacturers were going to, and I'm like, all right, how much is this thing going to cost? Blah blah
Right.
blah. There actually was a convention in Orlando that at least 4 of the manufacturers that I were looking at were going to be here locally. So I'm like, boom, going to that, done. And so we walked around to a couple. I didn't like the way they looked, or the customer service wasn't going to be great, or
Right.
like, I don't take calls on Saturdays if you need troubleshooting. And I'm like, okay, moving right on.
Yeah.
And we met a company there. I really liked their values, what
Okay.
they stood for. And then I was like, can I just like buy this like cash and like roll off with it so I don't have to pay for shipping from like another state? Because I mean, we're talking a legit photo booth,
Right,
400 pounds.
Yes.
I mean, shipping on it, it's $500,
Yeah.
And so he's like, sure. We negotiated a price, and my husband and I went and got a pretzel, went and got a soda, sat down on the bench, and he's like, you want to do it? And I'm like, I mean, we're going to use all of our savings to get out of this apartment that we were supposed to buy a house with.
Yeah. And keep
Okay, fine,
moving.
let's buy it.
So how long did you keep photo booths as part of RDJ Rocks before you split it off into a separate company, and why did you choose to do it that way?
So I'd have to look back at the photos and the date tagged on the photos.
Right.
But if I remember correctly, it was the end of 2000 and either 10 or 11 that we got the photo booths.
Okay.
And it wasn't very long after that.
Okay.
And the reason I did 2 separate brands was because, I mean, it's 100% marketing. That's
Yeah.
my thing.
Well, and this is important for people to know. When you go to grow your business, sometimes it isn't always just adding service to your business. It's figuring out, does it position better as 2 separate brands versus only one?
Yeah. And I could talk circles around this. I
Right.
think it really depends on the needs of that person.
Okay.
Creating Photo Booth Rocks as a completely separate brand, it enabled me to have a separate website to where, like, if my DJ friends wanted to refer or use us to package because they didn't have one, that was great.
Right.
It also created an entirely separate operation that is run completely separate than how we do Photo Booth Rocks. Double the staff, double the everything, because they're 2 completely different things.
Yeah.
From a client perspective, it's great because it's an add-on, but operationally, it's 2 monsters.
So how did you begin to position yourself, right? Because you started with 1 photo booth and 1 DJ, right? And so at what, before you decide we're going to have multiple DJs and multiple booths, and yes, sometimes it comes out of need, but there were steps you took first. So what steps did you take to be able to really position the company to be able to grow your team?
So, first and foremost, it was the branding.
Okay.
So I knew that it was going to be important to establish both companies as a reputable brand.
Okay.
That was the look, that was how we represented ourselves when we were out, and most importantly, that was online reviews, which was going to create the demand for people
Right.
to ask, and then me to be sold out multiple dates before, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
feel like as a small business, you got to play that game. I've never taken a loan. So everything we've done, we have earned the money and then purchased it. And we manage our
Which is not easy to do.
It's not, because I also, this can be something else, but there's also that cash flow thing. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
If we've got deposits for events in 2020, I'm not using that money right now.
Right.
So you've got to kind of manage that a little bit. I forgot even my train of thought.
So we were talking about building a brand, right?
Yes.
Because if you haven't built the brand and you haven't built demand, before.
Okay, yes. So the game.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
supply and demand game. So it's kind of about you. It's not like I'm a huge corporation where I can throw $50,000 at a
Right.
salary and be like, all right, perfect, you're now on board.
100%, which is
So-
a lot of things, the hesitation when people think they want to grow.
Yes.
A lot of things they hesitate with is that ability to say, do I have enough money to do this?
Yeah.
Right?
It's do I have
That's what
enough-
I hear all the time.
do I have enough money to do it? And at the end of the day, I've heard people say, oh, you bought a photo booth, so now you could just rent it. That is not how that works.
Right.
So I really had to take baby steps to create demand. If you specifically want to talk about the DJ side of the business,
Sure.
I had to create demand for more DJs.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was other local great female DJs in the area that I would refer out to.
Yeah.
I still refer out to them.
Yeah.
But it didn't make financial sense. I can still refer out to them.
Right.
Even though I have my team. But it was basically creating demand. So starting with branding, reputation, creating demand.
So what did you do with your brand, right? Everyone always says to me all the time, no matter what category they're in, and I hear it over and over and over again. I hear things like there's so many photographers and so many DJs and so many florists. So everybody thinks their market is more saturated than the next. It's everyone. There's 360 venues in Central Florida, guys. So every market is saturated. But so share some of the things you did to differentiate your brand from a full and saturated market. What were things that you were doing in your company that created some of that demand?
So again, hindsight's 2020, so it's a lot easier for me to say what I did looking back. The first thing that I did was, it sounds so like, seriously, are we seriously going there? But we're gonna go there.
Okay.
Is my attire. So everybody in the wedding industry.
That vest?
Well, first of all, that vest did not come with our DJ Rocks.
Okay.
But I mean, everybody wears all black, and I
Uh-huh.
feel like I needed to be professional and presentable, but like I'm the party, so I needed party shoes.
Right.
So the brand Toms came out with sparkly Toms, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. That's too extra. Like people are gonna judge me. I'm scared. You know what I mean? And I made a post on Facebook, and I'm like, should I buy these to wear to DJ? And there was a wedding planner who was extremely prominent, who I didn't even know was my friend on Facebook, who
Right.
said, yes, you should get those. I ordered them without even thinking.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it started with the shoes.
Okay.
RDJ Rocks Toms.
Yeah.
So if we search that on Instagram, they will still be there from years and years ago.
I remember the time you texted me, it was like, oh my God, Tom's just reshared our images. Like the Tom's brand started tagging you back.
Yes.
And resharing the
Yeah.
things that you used to post. Talk about building a brand. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, they don't make the sparkly shoes anymore
Yeah.
with Toms, but we still wear sparkly shoes when we're out. Doesn't matter what brand,
Yeah.
all the sparkles.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that knowing as somebody who referred your company that you did a lot of was that those personal touches. Was that within the client experience of working with you, and so what kinds of personal touches way back when even, and that you still do today, but what kinds of personal touches were you providing?
I mean, tons. I believe that it's all about building your tribe. And if you're not taking care of your current clients,
Okay.
they're the ones who are going to create demand for more to come back in. So, I mean, everything was personalized from, the booking confirmation emails to I'm still a firm believer in handwritten notes. Like
Yeah.
I would handwrite them. Thank you so much for choosing me as your DJ. But really coming from a place of actually being grateful to be there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Afterwards, sending them wedding gifts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of tied everything in together. So anything that I could do to really elevate the client experience so that DJing wasn't a commodity per
Gotcha.
se.
So all these things built a killer brand. I asked you this question before we got here, and the answer cracked me up, but it's true.
Hope I remember it.
I had asked you, at what point did you decide you have to add more DJs to your team?
What did I say?
Because we were at an event, and I said something that caused you to, about the pennies.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you have to share it because, you have to be willing to jump at some point, right? You can all day long say, I think I should have more people and I want to have more people, but we all have to have that Oprah aha moment where you kind of say, I'm just going to do it. So,
Well, and second to that, I
Yeah.
feel like everybody needs somebody in their life that's not always going to be yes, you did so well. Or,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
my God, you're doing so well. Like, I feel like we need people in our life and we should surround ourselves with people who are going to push us.
Yeah.
Right? At that time, it was you, and you honestly pissed me off. Because, I mean, we're all local, so let's talk about that right now, the
Yeah.
Dundee Awards.
Okay.
And, I mean, I think my question was, I really hope that I'm like even in the running. I mean, maybe one day I can win this. And you literally said to me, you're never going to win that award. You're not big enough to win that award.
I did.
Shannon.
I know, I did. I'm the real friend. Like sometimes it comes out a little bit blunt. You love me or you hate me for it, but it was the thought process of the people who were winning every year. And even as somebody who was working for another company, it was always the big boys. It was always the companies that had 10 staff members, 8 staff members, 4 staff members. And as this like one little cool chick, I'm like, good luck, but like probably never gonna happen.
Rude.
And so that helped light a fire.
Well, and also, too, if you want to rewind back to right before I got photo booths.
Yeah.
So when I first started the company that first year, I was doing an event, and the photographer that I was working with, I was like, yeah, so I'm going to start my own company, blah, blah, blah. I'm like super excited. And he literally looked at me, and he's like, what makes you so different? DJs are a dime a dozen. Why would you waste your time starting a company?
The worst. I know it's the worst. It's the worst. So you decide to hire some more people and start to scale. What was like, how do you get past the scary part?
You don't. You just have to jump.
Oh,
I mean,
not a jumper.
I don't feel
I'm not a
like.
jumper.
Okay, so I am a jumper. I'm not as much of a jumper now as I used to be because
Yes.
knowing what I know now,
Right?
it's a little scary.
Okay.
But if I was gonna give advice to anyone
Yeah.
who's like you or maybe anybody else who's scared to jump,
Yeah.
I would say make sure that you choo choo.
Trained.
Make sure that you feel comfortable enough in whoever it is that you're hiring
Okay.
that if they fail, what is your plan?
Okay.
And teach them the backup plans.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we were first talking about this and you said you were ready and all those things. And one of the, and I don't know if you got it from somewhere else, but something you said to me that like still resonates was you said 2 words to me and it was fail forward. So tell me what that means. Explain that concept of fail forward.
So I feel like you have to fail multiple times before you're going to get to the point where you succeed.
Okay.
Luckily enough, a lot of my failures, I mean, haven't knocked me to the ground to where I haven't moved forward. But I mean, I tell my staff all the time, every time we go through a growing pain or a growth spurt or a setback or whatever, it's literally been every 6 months since 2010. There's something because we are constantly growing, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly having to try something, it failing, do something different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I call it the throw the spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
Like you've got to at least be willing to try. That's your
Yeah.
fail forward. I'm
Yes.
like, just do it.
Well, you have
and
to
see if
try.
it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you fill the sales funnel, right? So we talked about, I know, but so we talked about, you know, having a great brand and doing all of those things, and which is great, but being able to have more business, you can hire staff and that's fine, but you have to have a big full funnel.
Oh, I didn't have a funnel.
Oh, well, that's challenging.
I mean, so here we go again, where you do this dance as a business owner as you're growing, and you got yourself to the point 6 months ago where you could afford to hire on the next person
Yeah.
or buy the next piece of equipment that you need to rent. And then you're like, son of a gun, now I don't have enough demand for that. So here you go again. So
Right.
I'm going to be honest, I hate sales. I hate it. It makes me uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
I would rather sit behind a computer, create pretty graphics, and let the marketing do the selling.
Right.
But at a certain point, that does not work anymore. And I think for us, it stopped working at DJ probably number 4-ish, almost 5.
Yeah. You had to go hunt more.
For sure. Actually, realistically, maybe DJ number 3 or 4. Let's be real.
Yeah, I don't think it was DJ number 4 or
It,
5.
it
I
wasn't.
think once we got past like 2, 3,
Yes.
it was like we're gonna have to do more to go grow past this.
Yes.
I know one of the things that you found successful for your business is you started adding on wedding shows.
Yes.
Tell me why.
So first and foremost, for our particular business,
Yeah.
it's it's something that you have to feel and you have to touch, whether it's the photo booth or the DJ side of the business. And we did not have money for marketing. It was, I pray to God that if I spend $2,000 investing in this show, that I at least get $2,000 back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me, the best decision was, let me start with a wedding show, because if I can connect with them,
Right.
I'm more likely to get the business rather than just like an ad online or something.
I gotcha.
So we started doing bridal shows with my zebra carpet that my husband hated. That's the only thing they didn't steal.
The zebra carpet.
Yes.
The best was the zebra carpet.
And I did that show in like 2 other markets away in case I totally embarrassed myself.
Oh, that's interesting.
Uh-huh.
Try out either something small or something. If you're going to try some new marketing, either do it somewhere else
Yep.
or do a tiny and try to maybe one of the like venue showcases or
Yep.
something like that. Try it out.
And I don't think it was a venue showcase, but it definitely was a smaller showcase, and it wasn't in like my 50-mile radius.
Right.
It was like 3 counties away, just in case.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I didn't know that.
And I strategically did that. And then I bought a printer in case I needed to print contracts right then and there. And now everything's digital.
Because
So
back in the day, it was like,
Yeah.
and here's your contract.
I didn't need that.
Signed today, right?
I didn't need that.
All right, so we're gonna take just a few moments, share quick videos from our sponsors. We have 2 different great sponsors we're gonna show. It'll take 2 minutes. Don't go away. Come right back, but let's throw it to the sponsors.
Your wedding venue is not just a place to get married. It's where you pop the bubbly with your girls. A parent's pride as they help you get dressed. Where he is waiting for you. When your dad gives you away. It's the first kiss of many over the next 1,000 years, taking that leap into a lifetime together. It's where 2 become 1. It's the beginning of the path to forever, where your wedding dreams come true. It's that moment you realize this is actually happening. It's the place that brings your family together, where you celebrate your love with all of your friends and family. Your wedding venue is not just a place to get married. It's every single moment of your day.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed some of our videos, sharing some information about Wedding Venue Map and Oh Marvelous Productions, who is sponsoring our webcast today. Very exciting, very exciting. Okay, so we're gonna get into the nitty gritty, right? So we've learned a little bit about the history, how you built it, the steps you had to take in advance. But now we're gonna talk about the ugly, like going in, getting it done. So we're gonna cover recruiting, company culture, onboarding, all that good stuff. So where do you even start when it comes to recruiting people? Like, you know you want to grow your team, so let me preface this, right?
Okay.
So I know I want to grow my team. I I like that I made a list of all the things I don't like to do in my business to figure out where I wanted to grow. But if you knew you were looking for, specifically you were looking for DJs, like how do you go to recruit? Where do you start? How do you find people with the same kind of passion that you had for it?
Okay, so this is a totally loaded question. So I'm gonna rewind to the first employee I had, which was not a DJ. Because I think if there is anybody on here watching that is a one-man show, I think one of the most important things, and obviously terrifying, was when do I need my first employee?
Okay.
And it was when I cannot handle this anymore.
Who was your first employee?
Well, my office manager.
I didn't think I knew that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was it Laura?
Yeah. Okay.
At this
continue.
point, whatever.
Office manager.
I needed office help, right?
Yeah.
Office assistant, whatever. And so it was like, what can I pay someone else to do so that my time can be spent doing something else? So I just want to throw that out there because
Yeah.
I do think that that's important. I think we all go through that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just did it last
Yes.
month. I sat down, made a list of all the things in my
Yes.
business that I need help with or that I don't want to do or that my time is better spent on, and then figured out who I needed to hire.
Or subcontract out.
Or subcontract, right?
Correct.
And like the biggest tip that I hired a coach and what she suggested was stop trying to find one employee who's great at all the things you want them to do.
Yeah.
So I hired an amazing social media person to handle social media. I hired an awesome person, virtual admin, to support administrative things. So I like hired different people who specialize in things. Okay, but let's get down to the DJs. Right? That's great. Okay, your first employee didn't have to be a DJ, but
It's fine. So moving on, because then obviously that's why I'm here. That's
Okay.
what started this whole thing.
Yeah, growth,
whatever.
growth.
So at that time there was no plan. It was I pray to the whatever above that somebody lands in front of my life that I could train. Like I mean, if you want to be real,
Yeah.
because we can fast forward to now and I'll go into
Right,
that.
right.
But you know,
but the first time
the first time it was. I mean,
you didn't hire a productivity coach like I did.
I didn't have the money for
Right,
that.
I know, I didn't either, but
You're
I figured
balling,
it out.
obviously.
I figured it out. I
because,
figured it out.
I mean,
Okay.
Well, you've watched me fail enough times to at least know. Yes.
Learn from those around you. Random tip.
That too.
Yeah.
But it was pray that the right people come into
Okay.
place.
So where did you find them, or how did they find you?
Random word of mouth.
Okay.
Either people or people I used to work with at the hotel who knew people in the entertainment industry,
Right.
or it was all word of mouth.
Okay.
And if you want to fast forward to now, there has to be a strategy to it. I mean, I'm
Yes.
running out of the words of mouth here.
If you could go back to when you did it before, instead of jumping off the cliff like you usually do and I never do, would you have taken a little bit more time to create a strategy, now knowing what you know today? No, because you're a cliff jumper.
Well,
it's the worst.
Oh my God. Okay, let me defend myself for
Go ahead.
1 second. The only reason why I say that is because I did not know what I was doing.
Okay.
So I had to fail.
Right.
I didn't even know how to train these people.
Right.
So I brought people on praying that they would fly by the seat of their pants, and that didn't work the first time.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's hard when you've built such a internal brand. You know, you built an outward
Yes.
brand where it's really customer first is the brand. How do you try to find employees that are gonna have the love of music, the passion for events, the passion for DJing?
Okay, so that's now.
Okay.
And so at this point, you have to look at it and you have to say, what is it that makes me unique? And what am I looking for? Because I couldn't even define what I was looking for in a
Right.
DJ. So I'm like, okay.
So would that be what you would recommend? So if somebody
Yes.
out there watching
Yes.
says today, I really want to grow my team.
Yes.
Figure out what makes you unique.
Start writing down values and characteristics of yourself that
Okay.
make you successful.
And make your company successful.
And make your company successful. So for me, it was charisma, it was personality, dedication. Like you start writing down all these different core values
Right.
so that you can know when you meet somebody on the street, does she fit this role or no? Because if she doesn't fit the core values, it's that whole concept of find the right person, but then it has to be the right person for the right seat.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the biggest
Right person, right job is
Yes.
like the most
The
most important,
important.
right? Because there's a lot of times I go into work with companies and meet with different companies, and the challenge is they have all these great staff members and they have the wrong people in the wrong places. So, you know, you sat down and really defined out at some point, maybe a little bit later, but really defined the core values.
Yes.
Okay.
100.
Yeah, so by doing that, you had a better idea as to what you were looking for.
Yes, I basically created a roadmap for exactly what I was looking for, and I could hand this roadmap to you and be like, okay, go find me this person.
Okay.
So it made it very clear what I was looking for in an individual, and then I could look at it and I can say, okay, is she trainable?
Yeah.
And I can move on to that step of
I
it.
remember you like interviewing somebody and then being like, can you interview her too? Just to see
know
what
what I was
I know
doing.
another person's opinion is. So what I find a lot of times, and this is a great example, and I won't call her out because she might be watching, is that, yeah, I was like, maybe. But one of the things that another vendor in the industry was like, okay, so I hired somebody. Can you help me write their job description? And I was like, how did you hire someone if you have no job description? So one of the things you did early, even though you maybe didn't recruit the way you do now, but you had a training plan.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about
Right off the bat.
Talk about why that's important, why you have to have that. Share.
Okay.
Because people aren't doing it this way, Kristin.
So how about, perfect, Shannon, you're hired, be a DJ. It's the same concept of I quit my job, went into the train car for what do you do on day one? How do they do what they do? How do they do it successfully? What is their backup? You know what I mean? So I had to write down what are the things that I would need to teach a DJ.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it's legit DJing. I got to teach them music knowledge because as much knowledge as I have, there's always more to learn.
Right.
I got to teach them equipment. I got to teach them troubleshooting. I've got to teach them presence on a microphone, confidence on a microphone.
Yeah.
The amount of confidence I have to do in training is like...
Well, and do you think too, I know one of the things that you did back then was you actually brought someone else in to help with the training too.
When I started, yes.
Yeah, when you first started
Yep.
and first started growing the team because you hadn't really trained anybody yet.
Yes.
You kind of went through the training with them.
Yes.
Like as seeing how someone else does it.
Yep. And so this was actually the same gentleman that trained me way back when.
Yes.
He had his way of doing it. And so again, never build those bridges or never burn the bridges.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I want to bring on some girls. Would you want to partner with me? And he's like, absolutely. This is how much it would cost. Or if you just give me a couple photo booth rentals, we'll do trade.
That's awesome. Well, and I think sometimes people think they can do it all themselves and that they don't realize that you also still have a business to run. So
Yeah.
it was a multi-week training process and you still have to keep all the other wheels turning, all the plates spinning while you do that. And sometimes when people try to do it all themselves, what I find, especially from a small business standpoint, is that they're not really getting fully trained. Mm-hmm. Is that they're getting like bits and pieces here and there. And I mean, there are very few places that I've worked that I feel like I was adequately trained. And so I always try, anywhere I do consulting with or whatever, to tell them, bring in other people to train. Bring in other people to teach.
Well, and here's the other thing, too,
Yeah.
is that I look back at my presence as a DJ, and oh my gosh, the first time a videographer sent me clips from the first wedding I did, and I'm like, that is how I sound on a microphone? Because I had no one critiquing me and saying, why don't you try it this way, or why don't you do it this way? You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay.
I remember you started recording yourself doing it so you could listen it back.
So as the years went on, I obviously developed my own way of doing training because I didn't want somebody to take as long as I did to get to where I am. You know what I mean? So I almost molded myself into their little mentor and developed the training program from there.
So you hire them and you kind of have a plan for a training program, but there's this whole conversation when you're growing a team about onboarding. And so a new employee comes in to join the company, and how do you really like bring them into the company? What are just a few things that you've done that you've found, whether it's now or back then, that you found are really successful in bringing new people in?
So I think that it all has to do with relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I always look at my team as, you know, I'm as grateful for them working here as they are. You know what I mean? It kind of goes both ways. So I've always had that mentality in my head of what would make them want to work for me over someone else. And so in the back of my mind, even without all these fancy training programs and things like that, it was just, you know, what would make them want to work here?
Yeah.
So I started to build the culture. And
Perfect segue into company
I know.
culture, right?
And what's really funny
Yeah.
is every little tiny thing along the way. You know, we talk about like when did you hire your first one and
Right.
onboarding and training and whatever. There was always a book. So it's so funny because I was DJing an event and there was another event happening in that room I couldn't set up. And so, of course, I'm like frustrated, like I can't set up my equipment, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I peek in and there's like stuff laying around the table and I'm like, oh, what's this about? And I pick up the book and somebody's like, oh, well, you know, this is about, you know, our management team, you know, we're beefing up our company culture. Huge, like, mega monster company.
Right,
And I
right.
was like, culture? Interesting. And she goes, yeah, you can have this book if you want. And so it just so happened that I needed that at the right time in the business. So I read this book and I'm like, okay, here's how I start learning about a culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the time people are always like, how did you learn that? And what did you do?
It's
and
a
my
book,
answer
it's a podcast, it's a webinar.
It's on the freaking internet.
It's on
like,
the freaking
when I don't know how to do something, I go online and I figure it out and I dive in, but I dive in one subject at a time. And I think
Yes.
you do that too.
I do.
If you're focused on onboarding, you'll read one book, 3 books, whatever, all on
Yes.
onboarding, all the way through. So you started focusing more on building a company culture. Now, for those of you who know Kristin's companies, our DJ Rocks and Photo Booth Rocks, not only is the brand strong, but there's a personality type within her team that like you find a lot. And I am not a strong manager of people. I'm a really great doer and I'm a really great teacher, but I'm not really a manager of people very well. So you do all of these little things to build and grow a culture. So talk to me about, and then get to the video, but talk to me about like what company culture means to you and why you think it's so important for people to really put the energy in.
So I think if you look at, let's just pinpoint our DJ Rocks,
Okay.
right? Obviously, we're all one organization.
Yeah.
But you have got to have everybody in, you know, this little mug oaring the same way down the stream. Everyone's got to grab an oar and be able to
Row together.
row together. You can't have one person rowing this way and another person rowing this way. So first and foremost, what's the mission? Where in the heck are you going? And then
Yes.
everyone has to understand that that's the direction we're going. So what's the piece that you're going to contribute that gets us there? What's the piece that you're going to contribute that gets us there? And then it comes down to even little stuff like having outings. We always do a spring retreat every single year.
Yes.
You know, I think one of the first years we did it, we were out at Mission Inn doing skeet shooting, which hopefully we will be able to go back again this year. But we always do something fun together because people, your clients, want to do business with people they like and trust. But I think
Right.
team members want to do that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely have to draw a line. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can be friends.
You can be friendly, but not be friends. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when I took a break from Wedding World and worked at a golf academy, the most fun thing we started implementing was twice a year. We did like a happy hour and then we all went bowling together and just
Yeah.
company activities that had nothing to do with golf.
Yeah.
So I think, so I know it was really like in the last 2 years where you really sat down and hammered through all your core values.
Oh, I hit it hard.
All your core, I mean, it was like you woke up one day and decided you needed to figure all that out.
Uh-huh.
And then read a bunch of books about it.
Yep.
Figured out what are mission statements, what does
Yep.
that mean? We had a lot of conversations about. So why do you think it's important for people to really put that stuff on paper? Like to actually write down what's your mission and what core values are in your company?
I mean, my heart is pounding because I think this is what I am most passionate about.
Yeah.
If you do not write down or at least throw up a visual of what you represent, it's so easy to forget it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
But and then also too, every decision that lands on your desk, you have to say yes or no to.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to be like, well, this is my mission and this is my vision. This is what I want and this is where I want to go. And does this get me closer to that? And if the answer is no, it's clear.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you did such a good job defining that. And then, you know, we'll make sure we cut over to the big video that got made last year. But I think the reason why this video became such an important piece was getting your whole team on board.
Yes.
So why the video?
So to me, I felt like, this is just how I felt, that people still saw me as the chick DJ. I mean,
I get it.
And I feel like we have evolved so much that I almost wanted, almost like a statement piece, like a milestone piece, really for me. I mean, it was a passion project, first and foremost. But second of all, I wanted it to be a milestone piece for my staff to be excited about and share. And I wanted it to be something to where if someone were to look at us from the outside and be like, should I work for this company? I wanted them to be able to answer that and be like, oh, yeah, let's do that.
That's awesome. I think Carrie just said, who wouldn't want to work for you? You're incredible.
Aww.
So cute. So can we share the video? Oh, we're showing the video. Okay, so you're seeing the video right now, which is fantastic. So let's talk about being a strong leader. So you have a team like this, right? And you've built this whole team.
Bro, started from the bottom.
Oh, Lordy.
Here we go. Sorry, keep going.
I've got it. So, how do you become such a strong leader of other people?
I think you have to continue to grow your own self. And I think a lot of it has to do with making sure that you're not really telling them what to do, but you're leading by example.
Okay.
So if you are asking them to do this, that, or the other task, you've got to be willing to jump in and do that first.
Gotcha.
So everything that I have ever asked my team to do, I've either done it with them or done it first.
Gotcha.
And a lot of it too, I had to learn to grow up a little bit.
It's hard, right? One of the quotes I wrote down when we were talking about this topic was being a poor leader gets you shit employees was something that you said.
I mean,
and I was
real.
like, oh yeah. Like,
Can we say that word on this?
we can say shit. It's Facebook. You're good.
Okay.
So if you don't have, if you haven't figured out your leadership skills and how to work on them, you really have to hone that in before you decide to grow your team.
There's books on that.
Yes, but before you grow a team, because when you're growing a team of people, if you aren't ready to be a leader, and I think I maybe made that mistake, not that I'm a natural born leader in a lot of ways, but maybe not so much when it comes to employees.
Yeah.
And when I left the wedding industry and, went to a different company, and all of a sudden I went from a staff of 2 assistants and 5 interns to a team of 40, 5 directors, employees underneath them, multiple department heads. And I was like, whoa, I'm not ready for this, because I hadn't focused on developing my leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think is the most important thing you do to be effective as a leader for your team?
I'm gonna have to pull out my laundry list over in my bag over there.
Well, what do you think? Share some tips.
So,
how do you become an effective leader?
I feel like becoming an effective leader, number one, you have to have listening skills.
Okay.
Because you have to understand what the needs are of your staff and to be able to say, okay, how do we either learn that together? I teach you how to do that. Any of that. I think that you need to have communication. So, if that's weekly meetings, if that's monthly meetings, we didn't start implementing those until last year.
Yes, I have a client right now, and I was like, you need a weekly operations meeting.
Yes.
You need to sit down with your team, go over everything.
We have a weekly operations meeting. We have a weekly sales meeting. I have monthly management meetings.
Marketing meetings.
Marketing meetings. I do quarterly reviews with the staff, and not in a bad way.
Yeah.
We review their KPIs, because every single year I have them write down what are their goals within the company's goals.
Right.
And then once a quarter, we review those. Where are you at? Where do you need to be? What do you need to delete? What do we need to add? We do our biannual retreat where we talk about any new ideas and stuff like that. It's really involving them in the idea of growing too.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that people forget is that to grow like this and to be of this size, you have to step back from the doing, right? So 5 years ago, how many weddings a year were you actually out DJing?
Every single one of them. Let me see, 2019 minus 5 to 40, 90.
90 a year,
90
right?
to 100
so how
weddings?
many, to be able to be functionable and manage this size team and manage marketing, operations, 2 brands, 2 companies, sales, all of that, now how many events a year can you realistically do?
I mean, I'm budgeting 50, but I'm really hoping I can get away with like 30.
Right.
Because there's also, there's training, and tonight there's an orientation at my office. I can't be there for that. We're onboarding staff and, this conference and that conference, and there's just a lot.
I think that's one of the challenges that I hear all the time is I want to grow and I want to do, but, as a florist, I have to be designing. I need to be in the design room. No, you don't. You need to set them up, train them well, and let them design. Like, you have to be doing other things. You can't always be as hands-on as you want to be. And I struggle with that too. Like, I hired somebody to do my social media, and yesterday I was like, but I just want to do Instagram posts because I enjoy it. But I
could just do Instagram posts all day.
I could just post on Instagram, but I know that that's not the best use of my time as the owner of the company. So you have a great relationship with your team members, but share, where do you draw the line, right? In general, in our industry, we're in a super social industry. And so when you're out recruiting and you're building great relationships and you're doing team bonding and you're getting really close, how do you draw the line between employer-employee versus we're super friendly?
I think I'm still learning that, to be honest. But I think I've gotten to the point where I do want to be super friendly with my staff. I love every single one of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to my office manager's wedding in October. But I always have to remember that, I am their leader.
Yeah.
And so they do have to respect me. So I think my decision comes down to, if I do this, are they still going to respect me? Because I still have to be able to go in on Tuesday morning in my operations meeting and, lay down the law. Can I say that?
Yeah.
And not in a mean way, but guys. And so if they're not going to take me seriously when I have that conversation, then I can't do it.
That's a big challenge.
Yeah.
That's a big challenge.
So I don't think it's necessarily a line in the sand. I think it's, are they still going to respect me? I can still be friendly.
Right.
Is this going to affect my decisions on hiring and firing them?
What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes you made when it came to scaling the business?
So I think first and foremost, it was everybody who worked for me was my friend to start off with.
Oh, gotcha.
And that did not work because it was really hard for me because I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I think that's number one. I think number two, it's really everything I failed at. You know what I mean? So would I say that I would do it differently all over again? Maybe, but I've had to learn along the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Little mistakes God, there's 50,000 mistakes. I didn't have insurance. Let's go back to 2011. Hello.
Yeah, could you imagine?
Contracts that I've had to put in place, relationships that I've built, bridges I've never had to burn.
Non-competes, you have to get lawyers and hire other people.
Even down to the point where when we started doing business with these big companies, I'm like a little bitty guy compared to these monsters. So
Hello, Florida, and some of the big boys.
I had to have a real attorney sit down and look at my contract and be like, this is what you need, and this is the insurances that you need.
That's awesome. But yeah, but at least you took the steps to get the right information.
Here's the one thing that I feel like I get complimented the most on is I am definitely aware of what I don't know. And when I don't know it, I go find the resource.
Gotcha.
Who does.
You learn it.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, we are live. I know not everybody realizes that we've been live the whole time. And we had a few questions that people had asked in advance. If you have a question, drop it in now. But I'm just going to go through a few of the really good ones that I thought. How do you work more efficiently to be able to manage a team?
Oh my gosh, efficiency queen.
So what are some tips? What are some things you do to be more efficient?
Efficiency tips would be time blocking.
Okay.
So make sure that you are blocking time in your schedule, and I call it white space. And this is for any fires you have to put out, or if your team needs you because they have questions.
Okay.
You don't want their day to stop because they can't answer a question.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So definitely time blocking, and I would say schedule blocking in general as well. And turn off the notifications when you're actually focused on something.
Yeah, I did that today, and then you got mad because I wasn't responding.
It's fine.
So a great question. How do you grow without paying more for retail and office space? So for companies who are really one person, two person, they maybe don't have office space, they want to grow, what would be some suggestions you would make on how they could grow without having to spend a lot of money in offices?
Well, I think you just have to look at what your business model is. So
Yeah.
one example would be we do meetings in our office, but if you don't want to pay for office space, then the way you handle your sales funnel is you say, perfect, thanks so much for your information. I'd love to chat with you. Whereas mine says, let's meet at our office. Here's the times. You would say, let's schedule a Skype meeting.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you can do little things like that, like schedule your meetings on Skype versus having them at the office. That would be.
I also think that people always assume you have to have a office space, but my whole team is virtual.
Yeah.
So I have virtual meetings with the marketing team. I have virtual meetings with my social media person, with my admin. We do a lot of emails. We message back and forth.
Yeah.
But it isn't always about having to have office space. It's okay to just, realize that you don't always need space.
Yeah.
But you might want to have somewhere where you can all meet. So whether
Yeah.
it's a place like here at Ace Cafe and they've got little rooms that you can rent it for an hour, rent it to Hub 925. There's so many local co-working
Yeah.
spaces that you could kind of have a contract with not having to have your office per se in there.
Yeah.
When do you know it's time to grow the business? That was like 4 people asked the same question. How do you know when it's time to hire? When do you know it's time to grow?
Well, I think it goes back to when you can get to the point where you can say, is it worth my money to train somebody to do X so that I can spend my time doing X?
Yes.
When you can confidently say, yes, that is worth my $15, $20, $50 an hour for someone else to do this so that my time can be focused on something else. Because as an entrepreneur, I think I know entrepreneurs that they're like, well, I started this business and now it's not growing, but you're the entrepreneur. It's your job to make it grow. It's not someone else's job to make it grow. So you have to go out and you have to hustle that.
Yeah.
So when it's time is when someone else needs to do something else so you can continue to grow your business.
Yeah. Well, and I think the money comes in.
Yeah.
Whatever tasks you can get someone else to do so that you can grow sales is important to growth. How to find the right staff to help only when needed when the workflow is too much. How do you feel about that statement?
So let's say that
So
one
how
more
do you
time.
find the right staff to help only when you need them because the workflow is too much? Not possible.
No.
If you're going to hire people, you grow to sell to fill their calendars. Yeah?
How is that even possible? Because if the workflow is too much, then it's always going to be too much.
Right. So, let's use an example of like a florist who
Okay.
they've got all of a sudden there's one weekend that they're slammed, right? So do they either A, start turning down business and say our book is full? Do they B, sell the business and hope that they can find people that are just short-term window?
Okay, so this is different. So
Yeah, okay.
this is called somebody running a seasonal business. We are running a seasonal business.
Okay.
We do 40% of our events October through December.
Wow, that's huge.
I'm not turning away that business because we're slower the other times of the year.
Right.
And so it comes down to, yes, do I hire more photo booth staff during those times? Abso-freaking-lutely. It's seasonal. It's if you look at the business model of, let's say, a hotel here in Orlando, they are going to be slammed from the time school lets out until the time school lets in. So you have to beef up your staff during that time frame.
Right.
So
I get it. I mean, it was an interesting question to think that I would say you hire the staff and then you sell to keep them busy. Like you fill the book as much as you can to keep them busy.
It's that whole cycle that I keep talking about.
Right. Yeah. But you can't hire an admin, do all this to train them, and then lay off an admin.
You can't do that with an
because
admin.
it's summer.
You can't do that with an
You can
admin.
do it with certain positions, but you have to figure out which ones in your business are all the time ones.
Correct.
Versus just sometime ones. If you guys have any questions, make sure you drop them in. The last question we have on here is somebody had said, I feel like I either need to jump and grow the business or I need to scale down and leave it as a side business. What do you tell? There's a lot of people in our industry that feel that way. There may be a wedding planner and it's not full time, it's part time. Maybe they're a DJ, but they work in other places and they hustle all these other things. So what would you tell somebody? When do you jump in and grow, or when do you just kind of leave it over there on the side?
I mean, I hate to say it like this, but it's how much fire do you have in you? because you've got to be willing to jump in and be the salesperson and be the marketing person and still be the doer. And at one point in time, you're going to feel like you're burning yourself out until you get to the point where you hire someone. And then once you hire that person, then you're still, you've got to be okay, and you've got to have a fire in you to want to do all of that in order to grow. If you don't have that, you can't just hire all of these different things. Again, who's got all of this money to throw to salaries? You know what I mean?
No one. I don't.
I even think almost 10 years into doing this, I still ask myself the same question.
Yeah.
Do I scale back, or when do I stop growing? And I think that it comes down to passion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, most small businesses don't look at their numbers like that.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have the ability to look at the big picture and see where's the best profit center, like exactly how much coming in, like when's one too much. One of the things I learned in the Golf Academy world was that for every 8 students, it required 1 coach and 1 house parent.
Yeah.
So the first student was the most expensive.
Yeah.
Student number 8 was like straight profit, but sometimes you didn't want student number 9 unless you had 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
Because having just student number 9 caused a lot more expense. And so maybe like really taking a look at the numbers to see how much marketing, what kind of investment do you have to make to really launch.
Yeah. I look at numbers every single day.
I know.
I have dashboards on spreadsheets that tell me this is my profit margin on this divided by that. If I have this many photo booths, this many DJs.
How many wedding industry businesses that aren't corporate or like huge scale do you think actually look at their business like that?
I don't know. Every year I create a budget on what we're going to spend, what we're going to do, how many I need to recruit, like how many do I not want to recruit?
As somebody who coaches other people, you are definitely in the minority of how people do. We don't always make the time, and I think that is really, kind of rounding this whole conversation up. I think that you have always, from the first step, made key performance indicators, KPIs for your business. You've always had a plan. You've always looked at all the numbers, and you've always, not that you weren't self-taught in most of it, but you did these things that so many people in our industry don't do. They don't have an actual marketing plan. As a consultant, I ask people for their plan all the time, and they're like,
yeah,
well, I do this and I do that, and there's no like actionable plan. So I think that, a lot of the things that you've learned and the steps you take in terms of looking at numbers, doing meetings, things like that are, they're not the average. And that's what's helped you kind of achieve growing to this point and getting here.
I think I love music as much as I love marketing, as much as I love numbers. Like those 3 things.
I hate numbers, so.
Sometimes I hate them.
Well, I see we don't have any questions online, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'd love to have you sign up for our Weducation newsletter. It's an email newsletter that goes out, shares upcoming events. We share out videos like this. On this page, we do Monday morning Facebook Lives. I get up at 8 and go live. You do not have to get up with me at 8 o'clock in the morning. Most people don't, but you can always watch it on the replay. If you have some kind of topic or something you want to learn about, make sure you share it here in the comments so that we can make sure to incorporate that in the future. And tell me more about what you learned today. What's the biggest takeaway that you're going to do, and what are you going to do next? I really want to take the time to thank our sponsors. I mean, everybody has gone out of their way to make this such an over-the-top experience. First and foremost, Ace Cafe for having us here. If you haven't been, make sure you come check it out. Snack, eat, have drinks, come for bike night, car night, check out all the vehicles here. Christie's Artistry Design Team, who made us look this good. We don't wake up like this, so awesome team for that. Oh Marvelous Productions, of course, who helped us put on this insane sound set, multi-video.
Guys, look at my microphone.
Do you see these? This
I'm
is amazing.
so excited.
This is awesome. So definitely an awesome piece for us to be able to do. We never would. This is way different than Monday morning Facebook Live. It does not look like this with my cell phone on the table and the cats running around my house. Of course, Wedding Venue Mag. Wrap, which is the company I have, and then our DJ Rocks and Photo Booth Rocks. Thank you, Kristin, so much for coming here. I think sometimes people forget when they meet you or they meet me or those of us in the industry, I'm not allowed to use the word veteran anymore because an industry person scolded me and was like, can you call us trailblazers instead? And I was like, oh, veteran made us sound old. So
Because I'm the most young.
the most. But sometimes when people meet us, they have this expectation of, oh, how do I do this and how do I get there? And it's realizing that like it's a process. I didn't wake up when people are like, you know everyone. I've gone to every Perfect Wedding Guide luncheon, every CFWA meeting, most NACE meetings for 12 years.
Yeah.
Every month. So, you know, it's a process, and I'm excited to be able to share with everybody some of the ways to get there.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you opening doors to the backside of your business. That's really important for us to be able to share, and happy to be able to teach people some things.
Yay! I love being here. Thank you so much. There was one thing I can add is I just want to remind people, like, I am still the chick DJ. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'm very humble and down to earth, and you have to be able to look at it and say, what don't I know? And then go research it.
Go learn
and
it.
learn it.
Yeah, go learn it. And that's kind of why we
Yeah.
started doing all of this, is to
Yeah.
be able to teach those from people who've made their way and figured it out a little bit more than the rest of us, you know, to be able to share some of their tips. So thanks guys so much for watching. It was great to have you, and we'll see you on our next episode.